Hey, good evening. What's going on, everybody? Good evening. Sorry about the short delay, but I'm glad again for another week. I know we had to take off last week. Was doing a lot of movement, so finally, in the midst of getting settled in northern country, being up north, it's been a good transition. So I'm excited about that. Very excited about that. Very excited about transition too. Transition is good. I know a lot of times it's not easy. It can be deemed overwhelming, but transition is good, and a lot of times it's so necessary. But hey, I'm grateful. Thanking everybody for your continued support, uh, and everything that's been going on. Uh, a lot of stuff been going on. So again, just thank you guys so much, and I'm excited about getting back on here. I've been really looking forward to this. Been very busy, but hey, busy it is what it is, and just back and get ready to do this thing again. So again, tune in. Let me know where you watching from. Uh, Feel free to comment and be a part of this dialogue. I think this dialogue is a necessary dialogue, and it's going to be a helpful dialogue. Um, but hey, besides all of that, we're gonna get through this. And what I'm doing, like I usually do, I'm just sharing it with a few people. Make sure you share it yourself. Let people know that this is going on. Tonight's topic is I think is a real good one, talking about personal accountability. Last thing, let me share this one more time, and then we're gonna get on with the get down. Get on with the get down. So again, I'm so thankful we're here for episode 48. Been going strong since September, and I'm grateful that God has allowed this to continue. And I appreciate the feedback that I've been getting from people. I really hope that the topics are helpful, not only helpful but are meaningful. And really, it's all about us, everybody growing as individuals and growing collectively. I want to give a shout out before we got Miss Valeda Page Banks. Hey, Miss Page Banks, thank you for your continued support. Thank you for tuning in again. And I know you're watching from the great metropolis of Greensboro, Alabama. Greensboro. I was repping my class of 1998 shirt yesterday up in New York. So Greensboro, we all the way up north being represented. But first of all, everybody know I want to give a shout out today. Every week I try to do something and highlight some people that I know that's doing positive things or some entrepreneurs and all of that. What I do want to do, give a shout out to my classmate, class of 1998, Mr. T-Bone Tyrone McGuffey. He's doing a big thing, launching his big event down at the Boneyard today, down there in Hale County in the Greensboro area. Have a lot of different artists, a lot of things. I know Shanita Field is the host down there. If you want to have some good music, good time, he's doing a lot of things. So hey, man, I want you to know that I know we may not talk a lot, but I'm very proud of how you're moving and the things that you're doing. So keep that up, man. Let's keep supporting each other. Let's do this. And another shout out to my man Eugene Tinker, another class of 1998, doing big things, man. He killing the game. Hey boy, hey, hey, I'm proud of you. That's all I can say. I'm very proud of you. Want to give y'all two guys, shout out. And get right into this. My mom tuning in all the way up in northern country from Fort Drum, where we've been having a heat wave up there. It's been real hot up there in Fort Drum. And I know that a lot of people down south, I know y'all been talking about the heat that y'all been having to deal with, but I mean, I don't know how it is to have to deal with like 70, 75-degree weather. That's just been burning us up there. We just been overwhelmed. I'm talking right now because in a few weeks we probably gonna get snow, so I'm gonna enjoy it while we can. My mom said, 1998. Listen, it is what it is, mama. That's just how it is. So we're gonna get on with the topic, man. And the topic today is one that I really felt like very necessary. Um, Very necessary. So it's funny. I'm laughing right now because my daughter, she wanted to come out right when we're doing it. Go ahead and crawl behind me, Nia. Do what you got to do. You don't have to make them sounds. Just go and do what you got to do. All right. So we back at it. The topic, man, the necessity of taking inventory of and dealing with the reality of you. So I said that the necessity of taking inventory of and dealing with the reality of you. Now, as I sit down and think about that, as I've been talking about it and going through everything, one thing I want to say is I'm not coming from a position as if I got it all together. That is no way what I'm trying to do. No, that's not it, because I don't. I got my issues. I got my shortcomings. I got the things. Say hey, Neil. Say hey to everybody. You see it? All right, it's my baby girl. I got my issues. I got the things, got my shortcomings. You know, I got my ways. I got all of those things. And it doesn't matter what title you hold. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian, if you're a non-believer, if you're a Buddhist, if you're a Muslim, it doesn't matter. This 4-letter word called life, there's correlation or similarities throughout this 4-letter word called life. And one of the things that we find life being so hard, and as I was thinking about it, is the fact that we don't like dealing with us. Think about it. Think about it. If you sit down and you ask yourself this question, whatever hardship that you have, even if it's at your job, even if it's on your relationship, even if it's with your siblings, parents, whatever hardship that you may be having or going through right now, what role did you play in it? Seriously, what role did you play in it? Now think about that. And I asked that question because the first thing that it does is it's so natural and so easy to try to find what somebody else did and find fault in what somebody else did. Find fault what somebody else did to cause that situation to happen. But in actuality, how many times do we deal with the reality of us? You know, I made a post a few weeks ago, about last week. I made a post about, putting your trust in yourself. I'm not telling you not to believe in you. I'm not telling you not to work hard. I'm not telling you not to do none of those things. That is not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is putting the trust in yourself and putting all of your trust in yourself when you know you lie to yourself more than anybody. You lie to yourself more than anybody because it's a natural thing to try to justify things, to try to justify the things to fit our reality of what we want things to be. Because a lot of times, if you really look at it, it's so easy for us to be selfish. It's so easy for us to do wrong. It's easy. That's not hard. I mean, seriously, it is not hard at all. If you look at it, look at kids. Look at little babies. Look at little babies. Babies not even a year old, 2 years old. They know they're supposed to do something. They can't even talk yet, but they just start walking and they'll go up to something where you told them not to do it and they'll look at you and then they'll try to touch it. They already know. You don't have to train them. You don't have to tell them what something to be bad about. What I'm talking about is the necessity of dealing with you, because when you start to deal with you and start to take inventory of you and taking ownership of your actions and what you did, it doesn't eliminate everything, but what it does is it eliminates a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the depression and the stress, the external things, because it eliminates all of the pressures internally, even though you may not can change the things externally. And what I'm going to explain with that, what am I talking about by that? When you start to really take ownership, a lot of times, this is me as my philosophy as a father, my philosophy as a leader in the military, and I use it a lot, especially with when I was in a company commander. You have soldiers. I mean, so things gonna happen. People gonna do wrong. They're gonna violate rules. You got rules. Rules gonna be broken. My biggest thing was to see where the maturity level was and see if people actually own up to what they did. Now, if you own up to what you did, I was more likely to be, I would say, less lenient on the punishment because the lesson was learned with you taking ownership of your actions. But when you come in there and you start blaming everybody else, you start talking about what everybody else did, and you start deflecting all of that stuff on other people, and you not taking ownership of what you did, that's what I had a problem with. And as a parent, I have the same philosophy. So I look at that as and correlate it to God. A lot of things, if we just take ownership of it, we'll begin to get the necessary things needed, get the level of understanding, because a lot of times what we get caught up in is we think the favor of God is us getting what we want. No, a lot of times that is part of it. But a lot of times when we talk about the favor of God is us getting understanding, us being able to see things the way we should see it, so that we can walk with that level of understanding and give us the right perspective. So we got the right perspective. we do those things and have the right perspective, it gives us a level of understanding where we can walk in understanding. And when we walk in understanding, we're less impacted by external things because we have internal peace. And that's when you talk about the scriptures talk about the peace that surpasses all understanding. And people be wondering, like, man, how in the world can you have peace with this, that, and the third? And they talking to you like that on your job, or somebody that did this to you and somebody that did that to you. And you sitting there and you have processed it and you've taken inventory of what you did. So now you're not walking around viewing things from the lens of that hurt or that pain. You can view things from the perspective of what it is. Because when we project things on the other people, we also try to project blame, and we will continue to wear that those wounds or see things through those wounds, and we won't be able to walk in understanding or walk in healing. That's why when we talk about forgiveness, a lot of people, and I heard Bizzle talk about this. He's a Christian hip hop artist talking about forgiveness being a selfish thing. At one point it is, but the other thing is about how God forgives us. But what happens in that whole process is you're foregoing all of the things, those desires and things that you want on the inside to get back at other people. You're foregoing it. And it's not that you're losing, because one of the hardest things about forgiveness, one of the hardest things about dealing with pride, one of the hardest things about dealing with selfishness or dealing with conflict, especially when it's between two people or in a relationship and on the job, with siblings, with parents and children, with any type of those dynamics, though any relationship you can think about, one of the hard things about dealing with it is you feel like you're going to lose. You feel like you're going to lose. Seriously, if you sit down and think about it, one of the hardest things to deal with the reality of us is, especially when it comes to dealing with other people, interacting with other people, we don't want to feel like we're going to lose. So we hold our ground, we stand our ground, and we dig in. And we do stuff for years and for years and for years and for years. And we carrying those burdens and we carrying that weight, that dead weight, and it's eating on us on the inside like cancer. And we wondering why we have to deal with all of these medical things happening to us. We got to deal with we being overwhelmed, dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, dealing with all of these things. And it's because we refuse to deal with the reality of us. The reality of us is I feel like I'm going to lose, and I don't want to lose, or I don't want them to have the upper hand. And if we be honest with ourselves, think about how long we've done stuff in relationships that we just wasted years because of our arrogance. We wasted years because of how we view things, because we feel like we're not going to lose, and we start playing those petty games going back and forth for years. And God is just sitting there waiting on us to say, you know what? Okay, God, I'm going to deal with me. I'm wrong on this one. It don't matter what somebody else did. It don't matter what they did. It don't matter what they did to contribute to me feeling this way. I did it. Period. I did it. And take ownership for it. Of it. And I promise you, if we get to that place, if you ever get to that place is so freeing, but it's also scary because it's not familiar. That is not something that we usually would do. Sister Felicia, hey, how you doing? I know she tuned in from she said, hi, young lady, talking to Nia, and she talking about enjoy the warmth because Fort Drum it get cold up there. My big brother tuning in from Hewitttown, Alabama, and my mom just made a comment on the last one talking about wasted years and blessings. So, and I want to talk about that. And feel free to comment and have your dialogue and jump in, because it's not just about me talking. I really look forward to y'all opinions and experiences, because it's very helpful to me too as well. But I'm sharing this from a place of transparency, and I look back and take an inventory of me, how I am. And we try to mask stuff into the things that our external accomplishments when we're failing on the inside. And I mean, we do that for years. We try to mask this thing based off our external accomplishment, and people see the stuff that we do, and they're like, oh man, that person is successful. They doing this and they doing that, and they doing this and they doing that. Oh man, that's great. Blase, blase, here we go. But then you dying on the inside. You don't have any peace on the inside. You're constantly at war about things because you're holding on to grudges. You're holding on to unforgiveness, and you're trying to mask it as if you're good with it, but you don't process it. And you're never good with something until you're able to process it. And when we talk about process, I'm not talking about processed food, but when you talk about a process, it is a systematic thing that you have to go through, that it has to go through in order for you to get to final results. You can't just get wheat from the field and not go through the process without it before it becomes flour. You can go pick wheat up all day, but you ain't gonna just take that wheat in without going through a process so that you can make bread. You ain't gonna take that corn in without going through a process so you can have cornmeal and make cornbread. It's just not going to happen that way. As a matter of fact, you can have all the right ingredients. You can have all the ingredients for the cake. You can have self-rising flour. You can have milk, butter, all of that. But if you don't take it through a process and you have all of that, it's just sitting right there. And each one of them is its own entity, but it's not going to bring forward what you expect because you never took it through the process. And we have to embrace the process of dealing with, identifying, taking inventory of, dealing with you, dealing with me, dealing with ourselves. Dealing with ourselves. Now, I know I'm not the only one. You be like this. This is you. Now, I'm talking you. I'm talking you as far as individual, but I'm not speaking to you. I'm talking about me. Oh, man, I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna do this. I got a goal that I'm gonna do. And I made a post earlier. A goal without any action put towards it is just a waste of time. Think about how many times we say we're gonna do something, put a goal to it, and we just don't put no action to it. All because we really don't want to put in the work. But we'll sit there and act and then complain about the what we had to deal with, the impact of us not doing it. Just think about that. Just seriously think about that. And I know these things aren't things that people are excited about, because guess what? We want to portray to the world that we got everything figured out. We want to portray to the world that all is well. We want to portray to the world that, man, ain't no flaw. I'm flossed up over here. But the reality is we all fall short. We all got our issues. We all got things that we need to process. And that's the greatest thing about community and having different people and sharing. That's why the Bible said we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. Now, when I was looking at that, it's like, okay, the blood of the Lamb, for Jesus Christ dying for our sin. Because he died for our sin, I'm no longer have to face the punishment of death for my action. But then we also said by the words of our testimony. Now, when we say the words of our testimony, how can somebody overcome something if they don't hear? How can they hear if we don't share? How can we share if we're not together and not talking with each other in a community? Instead of sitting here and trying to act like we got everything together, what we should do is sit down and learn from each other, because we all are at different places in our walk. Instead of suffering in silence. Man, I suffered in silence for years. For years, I suffered in silence. Financially, I suffered in silence for years financially, not because of I didn't have the ability to, it's just I didn't have the knowledge. And because I was so afraid to deal with that, I perpetuated a lot of bad habits for years before I actually just said, you know what, Robert, you need to get this together. And when I started doing things, working towards things, seeking people out, and start putting forth the effort towards it, what I realized was the thing that I was afraid of for years was so easy to overcome. And it was just like that. But what the reality was, I was imprisoned by my fear because I was afraid to take inventory of me. So I wasted years of inactions and blessings because I was petrified and I was imprisoned by the fear. And the scripture said, God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of sound mind. And that's what I'm talking about with, as far as we're having a sound mind, is when we refuse to deal with the reality of us, we create a utopia, or we create a fantasy that we try to live in a fantasy. And when we're dealing with fantasies, the problem with fantasy is dealing with fantasy is it takes more to perpetuate a fantasy or a falsehood than it is to deal with the reality. It takes more. Felicia said, yes, sir. So true. None of us have arrived. No, none of us have arrived. But think about that. It takes more. Like that's like when people say this. It's so much easier to tell the truth than to tell a lie. Because you tell a lie, you got to keep up with what lie you told so you can continue to perpetuate it. But if you tell the truth, it is what it is, and you can move on from it. But at the time when you're dealing with it, the lie seems like it's more feasible, but in actuality, it's not. But that is why I wanted to talk about, the importance. Like, it's a necessity to take inventory. I just recently moved, and I did what you call a full do-it-yourself move. Lord Jesus, Lord Jesus. And as I was doing the move and you packing things up, one thing I realized how much stuff that I held on to from over the years that no longer served a purpose. I'm talking about papers from 2011. It's 2021, 10 years ago. From products that I did when I was just recently I recently commissioned 10 years ago. And I had boxes of just paper, stuff that was good to go back to. But now, it just took up space. And this is the thing, when we talk about taking inventory, and I'm glad that first of all, I'll say this. I'm going to say this about that. With the move that I did, I spent a lot of my time cleaning up dead weight, destroying dead weight, putting away dead weight, taking things multiple trips to the junkyard for stuff that I was keeping that no longer served its purpose, because I did not take inventory of the things that I was carrying around that no longer served its purpose. And think about that. How much time it takes as we keep putting things off and taking inventory of ourselves, how much dead weight we carry around with us, and how much work it would take once we decide to get to a certain place. And once we decide to get into a relationship, now we got to unpack all that dead weight. And now somebody who had nothing to do with that dead weight got to deal with the consequences of you not dealing with that weight, or putting away those things, or giving away those clothes, or throwing away that stuff, or being a blessing to others with things that are no longer to use because you just keeping on the stuff, and you just hoarding all of this stuff for no reason. For no reason. Like, and I'm being honest with you guys. As I sit down and I'm being honest with you guys, my sons, both me and my sons, went to the junkyard at the landfill 3 different times. 3 different times with U-Hauls full of stuff that needed to be thrown away. And that took days away from me focusing on packing up and preparing the things that was necessary and that was in use right now. It took days away from the limited time that I had so that I can finally get rid of and throw away the things that was dead weight. When we don't take inventory and deal with the reality of who we are, we walk around with so much dead weight. So much dead weight. And this is the thing. When we walk around with the dead weight, what ends up happening is that weight becomes so much of a burden. Your past becomes so much of a burden that it begins to impact how you see your present and your future. Because that burden starts to wear you down. So you're so emotionally tired, and you're so spiritually tired, and you're so physically tired that you can't put forth the proper energy to your present, which in turn impacts your future, because you holding on to stuff that don't have no value. You holding on to all of that dead weight because you refuse to take inventory. If you go around our house all the time, go around our house right now and look at all the stuff that you just don't need. Especially like, I ain't even gonna call people out that deep freezer. You got a deep freezer, boy, stuff in that deep freezer that's been in there for about 4-5 years. Oh yeah, I'm gonna cook that. Man, you ain't cooked that in 4-5 years. Why you still got it? Because of I may need to use it. You're not using it. Going through your clothes. Oh my God. Going through clothes. I was like, bruh, why I got all of these clothes? Why I have all of these clothes? And I don't think I pretty much wear t-shirts, sweats, and the same 3 pair of jeans. Because I wear my uniform the majority of the time. I just started looking, or I wear, I got some church, so now, I try to make sure I'm, what the kids say, swagged out. But I started looking at it like, man, my mom said taking inventory is difficult. It is difficult, but it's a necessity. And mama, when you say that, being in the military, working in the logistics fields, dealing with warehouse stuff, and everybody that know, if you worked in the food service, a restaurant, or if you worked at a warehouse, there's always inventories. You always got to do inventories. And in the military, we do inventories as well. And when we do a 100% inventory, a wall-to-wall inventory, we send notices out that the warehouse won't be open that day so that you can allot the necessary time dedicated to it or those period of days so that you can get the right count and take a right count for the inventory that's needed. So when are we blocking off the time so that we can focus on those things and deal with those things so that we can take inventory and identify the stuff we need to declutter? I mean, that is what it is. So Leslie said, great analogy. She said, clutter in the house, mind, soul, all got to be dealt with. That is so true. And she said, Felicia said, like items with no value. Miss Christian said, so true. We need to declutter our lives. And then my brother said again, throwing away stuff now I don't need. Clothes right now. Listen, and watch this. And I just because it don't have value to you don't mean that it's not valuable to somebody else. And what I've learned is really that's where God really blessed me at, being able to be a blessing to other people. And it's not about the hand-me-down stuff. It's stuff we hold on to because we see value in it and we just don't want to get it away. We want to get paid for it. But we don't look at how God has blessed us, how God has increased our territory, enlarged our territory so that we can get more stuff. Why not be a blessing to other people? Because of our mindset. Oh, I paid this for it. Like, it's funny, and I laugh at this. This is one of the funniest things. Like, when you go overseas, especially in the military, I was in Korea. And in Korea, everybody got the cars. You can get a car over there in Korea. And some people, they buy a car like $5,000. Me, I had a homeboy sold me the car for $250. And, it wasn't it was a beater, but I got from point A to point B. But I see people buy for $5,000. They drive it for 2 years and then turn around and want to sell it for $5,000. And I'd be like, bro, you done got your money's worth. Why won't you? But that's just how some people are. But I want to get back to it. When we talk about taking inventory, really look at us, like those things. Look at the inventory of you. The inventory of how am I towards my spouse? Am I approachable? How am I towards my kids? What are my relationship with my kids? Do I prioritize? Are my priorities in the right place? Am I doing the things that I should? Am I fulfilling the roles in my life the way I should fulfill those roles? Are they in the right priority place? Am I operating at an imbalance? Because this is a funny thing. When we don't take inventory of ourselves, we want other people, we expect everybody else around us to compensate for us not taking inventory of ourselves. We expect everybody to compensate for our mismanagement. And that's a sad thing. If you really think about it, we want our family to compensate. We want our coworkers to compensate when we don't take inventory of ourselves. Oh, I'm just bipolar. Oh, they just, no, you need to go to counseling. You got a chemical imbalance. You may need some medication. Like you just ain't you haven't dealt with who you are as a person. You haven't, matter of fact, you refusing to deal with your trauma from your childhood is impacting where you at now, but you don't want to deal with it. That you got to deal with that stuff. That's what I'm talking about, taking inventory. And guess what? It is so freeing when you be honest with yourself. When we start being honest with ourselves, start taking inventory, I promise you, things would get so much better. And when you start talking about like addiction and all this stuff, and I had one of my former soldiers who shared about those that know in German, Antonucci. He shared about his bout with alcoholism. He said until he started, once he started taking inventory and taking ownership of his actions, that's when he was able to get to a better place with dealing with alcoholism. And that's what it really takes, is us doing it. Yes, Neil. Okay. But that's what it takes to start doing it, taking ownership. We have to take ownership of the things that we do, the role that we play. And that's one of the things that I think that one of the hardest things for us to do that is because we lie to ourselves so much, we just don't want to be truthful. And a lot of that comes from the lie we perpetuate. We perpetuate the lie to say the truth hurts. And I'm going to be a strong advocate against that lie, that statement, because that statement is a lie from the pits of hell. The truth of itself does not hurt. The truth sets you free. What hurts is the reality, you accepting the reality that you've been believing a lie or operating on a lie. So when we say the truth hurts, automatically there's a negative connotation associated with truth. So we end up trying to avoid it at all costs, even though the truth is right in our face. The reality is right in our face. So that is why I will always speak against that. Like the truth hurts. No, the truth is what it is. The truth has always been. What it is what you have mentally prepared yourself to accept and thinking that is what it is. But that's why when we're talking about the reality, the necessity of dealing with taking inventory and dealing with you. If like question to everybody that's watching, just a question. If you don't mind, because I'll start with me. And I'm gonna be transparent. I'm not asking nobody to do it. I'm just gonna be it. But what is something that you have really dealt with you about lately that you realize that you need to change? That wasn't a good thing. Me, I'm being honest with me. A lot of times it's my tone. I'm from the country. I'm from the country. I grew up Uniontown, went to high school, went to elementary and high school in Greensboro, lived from the 5th grade to 12th grade in Sawyerville. For those that know, we stayed in the Sawyerville. Listen, I had to walk through a cornfield to get over to my neighbor's house. A cornfield to get to my neighbor's house so we can play basketball. So literally, I could walk outside and cut grass butt naked and didn't have to worry about nobody driving down to see me. So we're loud. My family, we're loud. For those that know my family, we are very talkative and we're very loud and expressive. And a lot of times, what I didn't understand was how people interpreted my just say I'm passionate. I'm a passionate person too. Extrovert, love people. And once I get animated, some people take that as aggression, and it's not me being aggressive. And one of the person that used to tell me that all the time is my wife. And I'd be like, man, I'm not. And I had to seriously wait a minute. Okay. Instead of me dismissing what she's saying, let me listen to it and let me see myself outside of the lens in which I assume that I am. Because guess what? One of the things I had to learn was it's not about how I know, it's how it's perceived. And that's something that I was like, man, I got to deal with that. And that's something that's not an easy thing because that's part of me. but it can change with deliberate effort. And I want to get that, because don't act like you can't change. Oh, that just me. No, you change what you want to change. Miss Valeda Page Banks said, she said, when we do self-inventory and we really see the real us, sometimes it's a mess. Yes, Lord. However, we listen to some of the same things that family members have approached us about. And to admit that we believing that it was someone else and not us. The truth will break you to get help, but you have to care enough to want to change. Man, that's so true. That is so true. That is so true. My brother talked about, he just said, and when I asked people about sharing, he said about his diet. And I seen a difference, because before he talked about it before, but I've seen how he's changed. Subtle things, you make subtle changes and you start to see results, and you start to realize the thing that you was imprisoning you before from doing it, you'll be like, it really wasn't that bad. Miss Valeda Page Bank came back and said the way that she eat. Yvonne said her confidence. Miss Felicia said being too passive, or what some call soft. All right. And my mom was saying preach wife-in-law of a Miss Valeda Page Bank. But yeah, what it really boils down to is this. I had a real good conversation with my Uncle Charles. Me and my mom, we talked to him earlier this week, and we talked on the phone. And, one of the things I was sharing with him about, there's two things that in anything in life that if you have, you can be successful. And I'm talking about anything in life. I'm talking about on your job. I'm talking about in relationships. I'm talking about with your family. I'm talking about anything in life, whatever, a habit that you have, a goal that you want to achieve, anything in life. If you have these two, you will be successful. And those two things that I'm talking about is willingness and consistency. Willingness and consistency. Because a lot of times, this is what happens when we don't deal with the reality of who we are. We know how we are, but we like to make plans to lie to ourselves as if, or to make our ego feel good as if we're going to do something about it. But we know deep down inside, we're not going to do that. That's why it's so important to have accountability partners. That's why you work out with people. That's why it's good to have somebody else work out with you, because every day you ain't going to feel like it. I mean, that's real. Let's just be real. Every day you ain't gonna feel like you love your husband. Every day you ain't gonna feel like you love your wife. Every day you ain't gonna feel like you love your kids. Every day you don't feel like getting up, going to work. But it's gonna take discipline, which is consistency, or willingness and consistency, and you'll find success in it. But it all boils down to those two, willingness and consistency. And if you have those, then it can help you deal with the reality, or bring about those changes of dealing with the reality of you. Because what it real boils down to, and Ms. Page Bank hit on it earlier, is we just don't want to deal with it. We just don't want to change. And when we don't want to change, we find every excuse to stay the same. And all of our excuses that we find to stay the same identify somebody else as the source of the problem. It's never us. Think about it. Think about it. If you sit down and just think about it, think about something that you've been talking about, that you was going to change, but then you ain't change it, but then you blame somebody else. Well, I was going to do that, but they did this and they did that. Oh, well, I did that because you did this. Huh? No, you did that because that's what you wanted to do. And I want to say this, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. It is what it is, but this straight up and down, no chaser. I was talking to somebody, I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to my daughter, my oldest daughter. We were just having a conversation earlier today. And the conversation that we had, I was just talking about how people don't like to take ownership of the role that they play. And people love to play the victim, but don't like to talk about what they contributed to it. For example, first of all, I'm not condoning anything. I'm just stating a reality, right? Reality is you married, and I'm speaking about the role of a traditional Christian marriage. You married, and you have an obligation as a spouse, an intimate obligation to your spouse, and I keep it like that. But you're never in the mood. You don't do this, and it's always them why you're not why you're not in the mood, or you don't want to fulfill your obligation. And I don't say that like it's a job or something, but I hope y'all catch what I'm talking about. And you consistently neglecting that area. Now your spouse tiptoes out of the sanctity of the marriage, and now you want to play victim, like your spouse is a dog, your spouse is no good, and they treated you wrong, but you never once mentioned about your behavior and not fulfilling the obligations and the biblical obligations that you're supposed to do towards your spouse. But you play the victim. Everybody, oh, you know, she ain't no good. Oh, he ain't no good. And they didn't do this and they didn't do that. What about you? What about you? And that's what I'm talking about, that reality. And once we start dealing with that, now we start changing that behavior. And once we change that behavior, changing how we think and how we looking at stuff, then you'll start to see some changes. And then that won't open up, because the Bible even says, the Bible, it says husband and wife should be only apart for an agreed period of time for fasting and praying. And then they should immediately come back, so that leaves no room for the devil. So when you're not together on an intimate level as a husband and wife, you're opening up room, because you keep saying no. Susan May gonna say yes. Oh, Billy Bob gonna say yes. And there's only so much. And then guess what? Something happened. Then all of a sudden now woe is me. No, not woe is me. It was me. And that's what I'm talking about. That reality, that right there. We can play the victim role very well, but are we gonna take ownership of our actions? Are we gonna take inventory of what we contribute? And if you really think about it, if relationships didn't work, what did you do that was part of it? But guess what? It would have worked if you was willing and consistent. So I just wanted to go back to that and see how all of that tie in together. But you know, I'm this is not but now I do want to clarify. That is not an attempt to justify anything. That's to show an analogy of a reality of what roles we play. Because at the end of the day, it is my belief that we all going to have to give an inventory of what we did. And when we get up in heaven, it ain't going to be no, well, see, what happened was they didn't. And like, what they got to do with you? What does that have to do with you? Yes, we got to deal with people. Yes, people, it's hard sometimes, because guess what? If we really be honest with ourselves, a lot of us, we sit down and really see how we are, man, we'll be like, I wouldn't want to be with me anyway. I'm moody. I like stuff my way. I get an attitude about stuff. I mean, like, seriously. And me and my mom was talking. Me and my mom was talking about, I used the analogy, I used it on here before, about tissue. And I said, a lot of people can't differentiate between a preference and an issue. And what they do is they make an issue a preference. So the tissue coming underneath the top or underneath. Me, I like underneath. My mom like over the top. But in actuality, if I go in the bathroom and it's coming over the top, does that bother me? No. But some people, it bothers them, and they just got to have it their way. Like, there's something wrong with you if that bothers you to that point. Like, what triggered you to that point that it just have to be that way? And a lot of people don't sit down and never take inventory of, why do I get mad at that? Why do I get mad at that? Why do something that small bothers me to that level? And they'll never take inventory. That's just how I am. No, that ain't just how you are. You got issues. And a lot of that I'm being honest, a lot of that, you came from an environment where you had a controlling individual in the house, and that's how you just like it. But it ain't about you. If you talk about you going into a relationship, especially in a marriage, it's about you all. And just because somebody is not the same like you, that don't make them wrong. And if that's what I'm talking about, like when we start dealing with the reality of us, we start eliminating all those little ancillary and petty stuff that we fall out on. Because we start to be like, yeah, I can, yeah. You know, like we start taking inventory, a lot of us will be like, hey, yeah, the reason why I can't keep a man because I got a bad attitude and I don't have a mindset of a wife. But I want to be treated as if I'm a wife. I want wife benefits. Or, hey, the reason why I can't keep no woman is because I'm used to my mama taking care of me, and I'm comfortable with the woman taking care of me. I don't want to accept the responsibility of being a provider and being a protector for my family. Because my mama spoiled me and I got my way. And now I expect my woman to do the same thing. But I want to wear the pants in the house and be the head of the household. Nah, bro, it don't work that way. It don't work that way. And we don't want to change that mindset. We don't want to change those behaviors because guess what? We're comfortable with it. I tell you, comfort is the greatest enemy to change. Because when we don't see the need to change, we justify the fallacies of where we at. And y'all see what I got to deal with all the time. That's who it is in the background. All right, say bye, Nia. Say bye to everybody. Oh, she just did that for the camera. All right, bye, Felicia. But that's those things is so imperative that we just take inventory. It's so imperative that we take inventory of the things that we do and who we are as a person. And when we start to really deal with it, I promise you, you will see that life is so much more better on that other side of dealing with it. On the other side of dealing with it. And I say that because it is something freeing about being honest with yourself and being honest with who you are. And we can even lie to ourselves, you know, but it really boils down to a decision. I watched this guy earlier. He's out of Toronto, Canada, and he had ended up losing like 250 pounds, over 240 pounds. He was over 400 pounds. At his highest, he was 440 pounds. He said he has been obese, overweight his whole life. And he said he was sitting there thinking about it. And he said in 2 years, he lost 240 pounds. And he just went to the gym, worked out, changed his eating habits, changed his lifestyle, and just incorporated certain things. And he talked about, you know, he had a friend that was there with him through the duration of it to help him motivated. But one of the things he said, he thought about his future. And he said he didn't want to put himself at risk, health risk, because he didn't want to change. And what I liked about that was he didn't come up with a magic formula. He just made a decision and started putting in the work. And he was willing to deal with the reality of who he was and those triggers and those things. And I would tell you, that's why I've been talking about healing the whole time. One of the things about dealing with the reality of you is I remember asking God why I was the way I was, and God showed me the root cause of why I was doing certain things and why I was operating at a certain level. And mine was associated, my triggers or my why of why I was the way that I was at a certain point in my life was rooted into the wounds or the void I had inside of me because I felt as if my dad didn't love me the way that I wanted him to. And I'm grateful that I was able to identify that as a 21-year-old man and not a 41-year-old man, still controlled by my triggers instead of having an understanding of who I was and what caused it or the root cause of my why. Which helped me in a lot of areas, but I still have to manage them. That still don't mean that just because I knew that then I don't have to manage them. They're still a part of who I am. And that's why I talk about these things, because those are things we don't like to do it. And my mom said something here, and it's known, I'm psychology major, OCD overload usually caused by unhealthy, undealt with issues. And a lot of people that deal with obsessive compulsive disorder or some of their symptoms of them, or have some of the symptoms of them, is usually come from a desire from, is triggered from trauma of not being exposed to a trauma that you didn't have any control. So there's an innate desire to have some type of control. And a lot of times that's manifested into how controlling everything. And you have to check and make sure the door is locked. You have to check and make sure everything has a place, and it's certain things, and it's like this, that, and third. And that's just a sense of calmness to you, to the individual. But what it really rooted in is undealt with trauma. Because if you start to ask that question, why do you have to? And if you really think about it, by you doing all of that, are you really at peace? Are you really at peace? Or you just feel like you got control? You never really be able to let your hand go because you always have your hand grasped. And it's a different feeling because it's a foreign feeling. I would tell you, it is something when you go through neglect, when you go through being exposed to certain traumas and things, it is very scary, and it's shocking to get used to something that you desired, but you never was used to. And that's and I say that it is it's mentally like you like, dang, like you used to always having to pull your weight. You're a single mom, you've been making it happen, you've been doing everything on your own, you really couldn't depend on nobody else. And now you be in a relationship and somebody come and they truly just genuinely want to help you, but in the back of your mind, you like, hey, what's up, bro? Nah, it's too good to be true. It's something you got to angle. And everything that they do in your mind, you're looking through that pain, but you can't even accept the blessing that's there because you expect them to mess up. So everything they do, even if it's not something bad, you expect them to do it, and you looking at it from that angle, from that perspective, and they don't even have a chance. And you run them away, and then you sitting there crying to God because you say, God, I pray for a good man, and ain't no good man out here because I don't think they want to do this, that, and the third. And God, like, I done sent you 3, but you still looking at them through the wounds of your pain. You got to start taking inventory and start dealing with the reality of us. Because I promise you, I would tell you, it is something to live life through the wounds of your pain, because everything will always seem to be a source of your pain, when in actuality, the source of your pain is your unwillingness to release. And I will leave you guys with this. 2021, I know at the beginning, God has shown me, he said, Robert, this is going to be a year of renew, revive, restore, and reveal. Renew, revive, restore, and reveal. Those are the things that God had spoke to me earlier in January about 2021. So God was going to renew some things. He was going to restore some things. He was going to revive some things. He was going to reveal some things. And that's what God was going to do. And last week I was talking to my mom, and the thing that with all of that, renew, revive, restore, and reveal, all of those 4 things that God is going to do. But in order for God to do those 4 things, I got to do one thing, and I got to release. We got to release. I cannot renew if I'm still holding on to what's old. God cannot reveal when I don't make room to be able to, when my vision is clouded by the things, my pain, my hurt. God cannot restore when I'm unwilling to forego or let go. Like, I can't get my computer fixed if I don't take it to the shop and relinquish it, release it there. And God can't revive something that's dead if I don't let go. So release. Whatever it is, my prayer is that you release it. My prayer is that, and I will tell you, in that release doesn't mean that you are letting it, that release doesn't mean that you are neglecting it. That release is symbolic of you are simply saying, okay, I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you. Leslie Caldwell said, we all damage goods to some extent. We got to learn to upcycle ourselves. I like that. I like that upcycle. I really like that. She said, thank you so much for this message. So, hey, I'm glad that you guys tuned in. I'm glad that we was able to come back another week next week. Looking forward to another episode of the conversation. But again, you got to release that, release. Some of us holding on to insecurities from things that happened to us as a child because we never felt worthy. We never felt pretty. Or we never felt wanted. Or we always felt like we are an outsider. Some of us got to release the pain of neglect. Some of us got to release the pain of feeling abandonment. Some of us have to release the pain of molestation, rape, abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, the pain of, and I mean neglect of malnutrition, and some of us been through some stuff. Some of us had to release the mental abuse of just people just telling you never gonna be nothing, you stupid, blase, all of that stuff. And I know it's so scary because you feel like if you release it yourself, nobody's going to protect you the way that you're going to protect you. But I would tell you that the freedom in releasing is, have you ever held something so much? Like I'm talking about held some weight. Held some weight out. Like if you just had like some weight and you hold it out. Or like back in school, you ever leaned up against the wall and did the thinking chair? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Where you had to lean up at the wall and sit down like you're sitting. Like, Lord Jesus, if I try to do that now, these knees ain't going to take it. But I remember doing that. And you do it and you're doing it, you're holding it. And long as you're holding it, you're in pain. But when you sit down, there's a sense of release. And sometimes we just need to sit down. Stop trying to carry it on your own. The Bible said, the song's talking about, take your burdens to the Lord. Cast your cares upon him. And I know that's a hard thing to do when we talk about things now. But what's the alternative? Is the alternative you continue to go 10 years later, living life, the quality of life that you have now? Or you just say, you know what, God, I'm going to trust you. The Bible, taste and see that the Lord is good. Try him. I promise you. From multiple experience, when I released it, the things that I've learned is that the things that are dysfunctional in my life is because I'm holding on to it. And I haven't given it to God. Because the reason why I hold on to it is because I feel like I can fix it. And the longer I hold on to it and try to fix it, the worse it gets. And God has just been waiting on me to release it. And I'm working towards that. In areas of my life, I'm working towards that. And it's okay to work towards that. It's okay. So don't beat yourself up. Make progress. And make sure we're consistent and we're willing and things will work out. So I thank you guys for tuning in. I really enjoyed this episode. Make sure you share this with somebody. And it's great to be back in the building. Episode 48. We're coming up on episode 50. So good things popping. Good things popping. I want to do, also just want to give a shout out to my album. I got an idea. So you guys let me know. You think I want to do like a virtual listening party? I think that'll be cool. So we can kind of like listen to the music, go through the whole album. And then like, if anybody got any questions or anything and want to have, like, hey, what sparked this ideal about this? we could just have some dialogue. So if that's cool, let me know if that's a good idea. That's something I've been thinking about. I'm excited about this album. I'm really excited about this album. I think that is going to really really be something that a lot of people can relate to. And your boy, I put in some work. So I'm excited about it. And you know, again, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate those who are here. Share this with somebody, let them know that, hey, good discussion. Feel free to reach out to me. You got some topics, things you guys want to talk about, let me know, and we can work it in there. And if I reach out to you to be on the show, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Because I know people, one of the biggest phobias, people talking in front of people. Right now, I'm sitting in front of a computer upstairs, and I'm talking with a light in front of me and a computer camera in front of me. Yeah, we interacting, but that's the reality of what it is. So, hey, you guys have a great and wonderful day. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and God bless.